This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. Yes, it is a beautiful Sunday morning. It's actually very sunny out for a Sunday. Hopefully it doesn't get too warm, but it probably will, and then I'll be uncomfortable because I am a creature of rain and fog. But oh well, que sera. What will be, will be. Hope you're all doing well today. It was a busy day yesterday. Took a trip with my sister to go visit our parents, check in on my father, who is still, I tell you what, the last few months, I've talked about this before. Count your blessings, as it were. Up until the first week of March, my father was just my dad, and he still is my dad, but, everything was just normal. Everything was kind of going fine. And then after the first week of March, everything has just been an absolute chaotic mess for his health and the back and forth and his hospital stays and his just physical condition. And when I saw him yesterday, I've never seen my father thinner than that, and it was just, well, what can you do? It's one of those things where it's just like, this is time, this is health, this is the ravages of nature. And I can only hope that things improve. He's gained some weight. He's got some physical therapy going on. He's doing better. He was, completely on it when we were talking and everything. So he's still kicking. It's just, you think sometimes, why do terrible things happen to people that don't deserve it? And sometimes good or neutral things happen to people that obviously don't. Life's mysteries, what can I tell you? Otherwise, not to get too dour on a Sunday morning, but these are the thoughts that are in my head. But before I get any more of that, who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning? Noah Sencio, good morning. Molly Okami, good morning. Kiever Denmother, good morning, embracing your moniker. Don Julio, Gulf City Biker and Trash Man. Could somebody please tell me what painting Scribble's avatar comes from, please and thank you? Well, it is an interpretation of a painting called Wanderer Above the Sea Fog by, okay, and now I'm going to have to try to remember the artist's name all of a sudden. Friedrich, oh my God. I used to have this memorized, but now it's escaping me. Anyway, it's called Wander Above the Sea. Caspar, David Caspar Friedrich, or David Friedrich Caspar. Something like that. Anyway, oh yes, Caspar David Friedrich. Thank you, Advocatus. Caspar David Friedrich. David Caspar Friedrich. Blah, blah, blah. I got some aphasia going on this morning. Either way, yes, that's Wander Above the Sea Fog. It's actually, my avatar is an interpretation of that painting, a brilliant interpretation by Knight of Charlemagne. I've told this story before. Several years ago, I used the painting as my avatar originally because it was, public domain and royalty free, and I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. But I asked at one point, or I sort of mused off into the ether, I said, I'd really like a version of that, but in profile, so I could have something unique for my channel. And out of nowhere, Knight of Charlemagne delivers to me a full-fledged digital recreation of that painting with the character now turned around facing the camera, so to speak. And he gifted it to me free and clear to use as I will. And I've forever been grateful. And he's always been credited in every one of my videos and streams in the credits. So yeah, that's what that is. You can often find it. The original you can find being used on all sorts of book covers, left, right, and center, because it is public domain. More often than not, I see it on publications of Frankenstein, like it's supposed to be Dr. Frankenstein searching for his monster or something. But anyway, long answer to a short question. There you go. Mike R., good morning. Advocast Diabli, I will take potpourri for 1600, Scribe. Yeah, that was the joke. Plague Trucker Zach, good morning. Who else is here? Jaeger Pony, good morning. Old Guy Gamer, good morning. Funtime Bats, good morning. TF Warix, good morning. Mike Savage, blarg. Spiral Girl, good morning. Tier Alexander the Scourge, Good morning, everyone. It is a warm and sunny day on the moon, and my necropolis is filled to the brim with my loyal servants ready to attack your shitty little plan. I mean, deliver cookies to everyone. You gave it away. You gave it away. Hero Soldier, good morning. Somnambual Nation, good morning. Matthew James, good morning. Josh Hammond, good morning. Shadowclaw, good morning to you. Ercole Di Stefano, Tex Bishops, good morning. Tall Person, good morning to you. Simon Willikins, good morning. Roasted Opinions, good morning. Ryan R., good morning. Derek LaRue, thank you, Derek, as always, for your continued support and generosity. I really appreciate it. Hope you're having a good Sunday and hope you enjoy the show. JB, good morning. Lexi Mads, good morning. Well, now I can really start the show. Rib Rascal, good morning. And I think that's everyone I see. If I missed you, SWD40, good morning. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good morning. So I couldn't decide what to talk about today as a focus topic. So I just kind of picked a few things to talk about. First, I wanted to rant briefly. And not so much about my father's medical conditions and everything else. I already did that. But I wanted to rant briefly about YouTube ads on YouTube TV. They're the scammiest looking things. I tell you, I can't. I wish I could capture them. I don't have a way to capture them off my TV or something. But there was this one, just kind of exemplifies everything. It was an obvious AI Joe Rogan voice telling me about this great new thing I need to buy. And it was like night vision goggles or something. Like, what? It's like, you'll never believe this is an amazing thing. And I'm like, it sounds like the worst possible scammy stuff. And this stuff is on YouTube TV every day. It's either for weird snake oil medical medicine stuff or some kind of gadgets like, this is the military's version of a drone and you've never seen anything like it before. Buy this right now before anybody gets their hands on it. It's like, it is so fake. It is so scammy. It looks like such a bunch of frauds. And yet somehow there are YouTube channels just reporting on stuff that are getting zapped by YouTube all the time for copyright violation or for promoting a bad thing or something all the time. And yet these ads are up there and YouTube's making bucks off it somehow. That's the one thing. The other thing too is who does anybody actually fall for this stuff? Like, I'm forced to watch some of these commercials for at least 10, 15 seconds or something before I can skip past them. But does anybody actually just watch them and fall for them or buy anything from them? I don't know. And then you have these commercials that are like 7 minutes long. They're these long, self-indulgent, either like music stars or skateboarders promoting something or some kind of life-changing this, that, or the other. And it's so produced and it's so fake and it sounds like, I was sitting here, in my apartment, I've got my TV in my living room and I've got my computer room over here. And I was sitting here, the TV was on as I was prepping things this morning because I kind of just left it on. And whatever video I had left it on is kind of playing in the background. Suddenly it cuts off. And even though I had my headphones on, even though I wasn't paying attention to the TV, even though I couldn't see what was happening, I could hear the ad. And it was so blatantly an ad that even 2 rooms away and through a wall and with headphones on, I was like, turn this off. Why am I listening to this? Who sits there and watches these 7-minute long ads for nothing? I don't even know what they were selling. All I know is that I could hear the really cheesy music and I could hear somebody giving some kind of testimonial that sounded completely canned and faked. And I just had to run to the living room and turn it off because my brain was about to explode. Do these things work? Does anybody sit there and watch them? You know, I'd record them and do some kind of commentary or something, but I wouldn't want to give them any extra airtime for the most part. But I guess my biggest quandary is for things that are so obviously either scams or fake products or some kind of shady situation, YouTube is fine taking their money, but you've got YouTubers who put time and effort into making their videos, especially my friends in the true crime genre. And they get zapped, demonetized, tossed away. They're promoting bad things. I tells you what, people, the world ain't fair if you didn't already know. Also, thank you, Matthew James. All the best to you and your whole family. Thank you, Matthew, very much. And also, your 10th super chat on a stream. Well, thank you, Matthew. Very much appreciated. Yeah, it was nice seeing my family yesterday. Get to hug my mom, my mother, and my sister. See, my father had his physical therapy person show up in the middle of our little visit. It was already known. It wasn't like an interruption or anything per se. And so my sister and I took time out to give my mother a massage. We rubbed her feet and her head and her shoulders, and just kind of gave her the queen for a day treatment as best as we could, because it's harder for her to get around now because of her knees, and she is carrying all her weight like on her shoulders and having to maneuver. I just wish she had a magic wand sometimes, don't you? Just wish I had a magic wand. If I had a magic wand, all my father's ills would go away and all my mother's physical ills would go away. And certainly Ranting Monkey, man, if I had a magic wand, I would fix that man's spine lickety split. That'd be the first thing I'd do. I would fix that man's spine so he could not be in pain all the time, be able to run around with his grandchildren and have a more comfortable existence. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Did I have a track? I don't know if I had a track. But either way, you know that there was a monolith I was about to say New Vegas. I've been too immersed in Fallout the last couple of days. There's a monolith in Las Vegas, or outside of Las Vegas. Apparently, it was shiny and mysterious. I don't think it's much of a mystery of how it got there, but it got me thinking about the monoliths on the moon in 2001: A Space Odyssey. And since I live on the moon, I thought I'd start off with this little goofy story as an appetizer. Because why not? I love a good mysterious monolith story, of which there have been several over the years. Las Vegas, a strange monolith found jutting out of the rocks in a remote mountain range near Las Vegas has been taken down by authorities. How it got there is still unsolved. I have a feeling, and I know, just stay with me here. I have a feeling that somebody put it there and that somebody was a human being. I know. It's goofy idea. Like a performance art project, somebody trying to be mysterious. They did it out in a remote location, so there's likely no way anybody could have observed it happening. Yeah, I know it's a big mystery. I'm sure it's got some really supernatural connotations. Anyway, quote, "It remains unknown how the item got to its location or who might be responsible," Las Vegas police said Friday in a series of posts on X announcing the removal of the glimmering 6'4" prism. Its discovery over the weekend and quick removal because of public safety and environmental concerns revived a pandemic-era mystery that captured the public's imagination when shiny monoliths evoking the object that appears in the Stanley Kubrick movie 2001: A Space Odyssey began to appear around the globe. Members of the Las Vegas Police Search and Rescue Team found the object near Gas Park, part of the vast Desert National Wildlife Refuge, where bighorn sheep and desert tortoises can be found roaming. It was the latest discovery in a series of mysterious columns that have popped up since at least 2020. In November of that year, a similar metal monolith was found deep in the Mars-like landscape of Utah's Red Rock Desert. Then came sightings in Romania, Central California, New Mexico, and on the famed Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas. All of them disappeared as quickly as they popped up, adding to the lore. Quote, "This thing is not from another world," unquote. You don't say. Lieutenant Nick Street. Nick Street. That sounds like a great name for a noir cop, or a noir detective or something. Nick Street. Private Eye. Anyway, Lieutenant Nick Street of Utah's Department of Public Safety said at the time, the Utah monolith, believed to be the first in the series, had been embedded in the rock in an area so remote that officials didn't immediately reveal its location for fear of people getting lost or stranded while trying to find it. But internet sleuths quickly found the coordinates, and hordes of curious tourists eager to see and touch the otherworldly object arrived, flattening plants with their cars and leaving behind human waste in the bathroom-free backcountry. Ugh. Authorities said the same concerns led them to tear down the latest monolith on Thursday. It was illegally installed on federal land established to protect bighorn sheep and is home to rare plants and desert tortoises. The desert, boy oh boy, I'm telling you, getting my brain to read this morning is a challenge. The Desert National Wildlife Refuge, which is managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, is the largest wildlife refuge outside of Alaska and can cover the state of Rhode Island twice. Ooh. Krista Wise, acting manager of the Wildlife Refuge, confirmed Friday that the monolith had been removed, but said she couldn't comment on whether federal authorities have opened a criminal investigation. The police department said the object was being kept at a secret location. I know what that secret location is. It's Area 52. That's where they keep all the monoliths, you see. was being kept at a secret location while authorities try to figure out the best way to dispose or store the massive structure made out of a reflective sheet of metal that was molded into a prism and secured with rebar and concrete. Rebar and concrete, you mean it wasn't hovering there on repulsor lifts or something? It was completely terrestrial? Oh man. Photos accompanying the department's social media post showed the object on its side after its removal, which left a large indent in the ground because the rebar had been buried deep into the dirt and rocks. The department said it, quote, discourages anyone from venturing off marked trails or leaving objects and items behind. Quote, this poses a danger to you and the environment, Las Vegas police said. In Utah, the removal of the monolith there also left behind a hole in the red rock. The Bureau of Land Management said Friday that it is still actively investigating the Utah case. Oh my gosh. So I guess, what do you do if you find out who did it? I guess you probably fine them or give them community service or something for, defacing federal land. Or there was that several years ago, there was some Instagram chick or something that kept leaving her mark on national parks or whatever. I forget what that situation was. It was a scandal on YouTube for about a week, and she finally got caught and found and fined or something. So anyway, so another monolith, not the first and certainly not the last, but I thought it was interesting, just for fun, just to add some mystery to life. Sure, why not? And then the worst that happens, you get a hole in the ground. But yeah, if it does, attract a whole bunch of looky-loos. Stamping on things and screwing things up, then yeah, it's probably not the best idea. Put them in already inhabited public places. It's actually more impressive if you can set up one of these things in a place that isn't in the remote location off in the middle of nowhere and get away with it. More of a Banksy kind of thing. I'd say try that rather than try to put it out somewhere in a nature preserve or whatever. Either way, that's our opening gambit for today. But let's talk about something else involving things that really shouldn't be where they are. Let me switch over to the next story, which is actually just kind of part one and one perspective of the same story. And that is border encounters are down 25% since Biden announced asylum restrictions, CBP says. Wow, it's amazing if you actually try to prevent people from coming across into the country illegally, that number drops. That doesn't actually change or help for all of the time prior, where hundreds of thousands and millions of people have come across the border, and dozens of people have been victimized by criminals coming across the border in various ways. Some reach the news media, many don't. But okay, yeah, sure. Band-Aid on a gaping wound, and also a repudiation of everything Biden was saying against Trump during the campaign. I don't know. I wonder if there's any mention here of the pushback or reaction from Biden supporters. The number of people entering the U.S. illegally has fallen sharply, with encounters at point of entry falling by 25% since the White House announced controversial asylum restrictions earlier this month, according to new monthly statistics released Thursday by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The announcement is a welcome development for President Joe Biden. Welcome, perhaps, but too little and too late, if you're really thinking about it, whose executive action on June 4th that shut off access to asylum for migrants who cross the U.S.-Mexico border illegally sought to address an ongoing crisis that has become a significant political challenge. Really? Oh, now you're acknowledging there's a crisis? I remember not too long ago where I was told over and over again there was no crisis, but only because Trump was in power, and obviously anything Trump did at the border was racist, xenophobic, extreme, and so on. Oh, but now that Biden has readopted policies similar in line to what Trump was doing, well, now it's a crisis, and now it's a good thing. Okay. According to CBP, encounters between ports of entry along the southwest border dropped to 117,900 recorded encounters in May, a 9% decrease from April. Wow, gosh, only 117,000, almost 118,000. God, that's it. Wow, that's great. 118,000 people Oh boy, what a tiny number. However, as CBP notes in a statement, quote, migration flows are dynamic, unquote. You're not kidding. You're not kidding. The variance month to month could account for that. But okay, sure. You want to try to spin this as Biden taking credit for possibly just a regular shift. It's fine. Quote, CBP continues to take strong enforcement efforts against transnational criminal organizations at our border and beyond, unquote. CBP Acting Commissioner Troy A. Miller said in a statement. What constitutes a strong enforcement effort if we still have hundreds of thousands of people coming in every month? Right? I mean, 118,000 encounters in May is a 9% decrease from April. That means we still have over 100,000 people coming to the border every month. 100,000 people. And where are they going? And who's taking care of them? And where are they staying? And what about all the people you don't capture? All the people you don't encounter? How much of that 118,000 people in May is a reflection of the total number that have come across you? You have to ask. Okay. Earlier this month, the Biden administration invoked an authority to shut off access to asylum for migrants who cross the U.S. border illegally, which should have always been the rule, full stop. If you are found to have come across the border illegally, any asylum claim you otherwise would make, unless in some amazingly extraordinary circumstance, should be immediately denied and you are deported. If you want asylum, you should seek asylum legally. You don't get to ask for it after you've been caught breaking the law. That should have already been the law from the jump. And just the fact that it isn't, the fact that somebody can break the rules, cross the border illegally, hide in the U.S. for God knows how many years, and then once they're caught, they'll say, asylum, asylum, and then they'll just gum up the works for the next decade as that is processed against the backlog of all the other asylum requests. Coming to a port of entry legally, in my opinion, should be a prerequisite for requesting asylum. You don't get to do it after the fact. But here we are. Let me back up a little bit. The Biden administration invoked an authority to shut off access to asylum for migrants who cross the U.S. border illegally, a significant attempt to address one of the president's biggest political vulnerabilities ahead of the first presidential debate, which will be held on June 27th on CNN. I'm hoping to be on somebody's live stream to chat up that event when it happens, because I'm very curious to see not only what is said, but obviously everybody is really tuning in to see, is Biden going to be able to retain some coherency? And of course, I say that as I stumble over my own words, but you know what I'm talking about. Mental acuity in a debate, even though there's no audience and he has no distractions and there's commercial breaks. Thankfully, they're not allowed to use note cards, but I will be keeping on the lookout to see if Biden has an earpiece or something, because I got to wonder. It was the administration's most dramatic move on the U.S. southern border and used the same authority former President Donald Trump tried to use in office. Really, it was the administration's most dramatic move on the U.S. southern border. Yeah, so after nearly 4 years of overseeing record and catastrophic numbers of people crossing the border, only now at the 11th hour prior to a debate does he take an action, the results of which we're not really going to be sure of the effects of for months to come, because all of this could just be normal fluctuations. And so anything Biden said in the campaign prior to this about Trump's use of executive orders on the border or elsewise is all now defunct. Is that how anybody's going to see it in the media or bring it up? Probably not. Biden's executive action followed an unsuccessful attempt by U.S. lawmakers earlier this year to reach a bipartisan agreement that would have changed asylum laws and secured greater funding for agencies to vet migrants seeking asylum in the U.S. The deal ultimately failed after Trump and House Republicans raised objections. Objections to what? What was in that bill that they raised objections to? CNN, you going to tell us? No, of course not. You wouldn't go to the effort of actually telling us what was in that bill that was the poison pill for Republicans and or Trump. Of course not. No, it's just obviously Republicans don't want to do anything on the border. They don't want to have anything happen on the border. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a political calculus here that you don't want to hand the incumbent president a win ahead of an election. But all the same, even if you quote unquote handed Biden a win, the only reason it would have happened is because Republicans made it happen. There are so many better ways to spin this and still look at the pragmatism of just securing the border better than it is, reducing the number of people coming in, vetting those that are trying to come in, and so on. But anyway, that's all another thing. But anyway, so yeah, this article kind of puts a damning with faint praise kind of spin on Biden's move. Doesn't bring up the fact that it's complete and absolute hypocrisy on Biden's part to do so, and under this method of executive order. But let's take a look at a different perspective on the subject on that same deal. So CNN gives us kind of a, kind of sort of assessment of the situation. Let's take a look from something a little bit closer to home to the problem. Oh, real quick. Thank you, JB, pardon me. I remember hearing illegals were huge in illegal grow ops, which were a huge nuisance. Also, they steal power water for the massive operation. There's a whole bunch of things that are either allowed or are taking up space. There are employers that are counting on having illegal immigrants to work for them so they can pay them practically nothing, not have to have them on the books. In my opinion, businesses that employ and effectively attract illegal migration should be brought down a lot harder than they are when they're caught. The incentives to dangle in front of desperate people's faces, whether it's sanctuary cities and asylum and free housing and debit cards and fast track to green cards and all this other stuff that they're trying to do to try to alleviate the problem, still maintain their virtuous sense of self and helping the downtrodden and everything. And yet just it's a beacon for people to try to cross the border, risk their lives, their children's lives, to give themselves over to illegal operations, human trafficking, and on and on and on. And on top of that, obviously there are stories, and I might cover that in its own thing in the near future, of all of this is just in service to bring in automatic voters for the Democratic Party. When you're handing out registration forms for voting to illegal immigrants in federal elections. I'm sure it's just a conspiracy theory. There's no evidence behind that at all. Just like every other conspiracy theory over the last 5 years that has effectively, eventually been shown out to be entirely or mostly true. But who knows what YouTube will do if I say any more than that. But either way, thank you, JB. But yeah, let's look at a perspective from a publication closer to the border on Biden's move. Pure politics. No applause for Biden's asylum crackdown on Texas border or in Mexico. The president's June 4th order curtailing asylum applications by migrants came a day after Mexico elected its first woman president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Was that part of the timing? I don't know. Okay. President Joe Biden's executive order cracking down on asylum seekers put a damper on Mexico's post-election celebration. I couldn't care less, personally. The country's first woman president was just voted into office. Yep, well, the only two candidates running at that point were women, so it was going to happen inevitably, and so what? It also left residents along this stretch of the border in West Texas unimpressed. After all, many of the undocumented migrants crossing through the area are Mexican men traveling alone or in small groups and heading for jobs in oil fields, factories, and farms in the U.S. interior. Quote, Biden's move is certainly a political stunt, unquote, said Terrell County Sheriff Thad Cleveland, who spent 26 years in the Border Patrol. Quote, we're 5 months away from the U.S. presidential election, and this is pure politics. I also don't think this is fair to our vecinos, neighbors back in Mexico, unquote. Okay, why is that? Why is it unfair to Mexico? The response in Terrell County, which runs along 54 miles of the Rio Grande in the Trans-Pecos region, highlights a hidden irony. Many employers want to hire able-bodied Mexicans, but are less welcoming to non-Mexican migrants. Okay. Cleveland 50, a Republican, has a message for Mexico's newly elected president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Quote, let's work together to provide more work permits for Mexican men, bring in guest workers. Our economy survives and thrives on illegal alien labor. That's just a fact, and our neighbors to the south are the ones who migrate back and forth, unquote. Well, yes, let's take the illegal out of it and regulate it and meter it. I don't necessarily have a problem with that notion, but I also don't want to encourage more illegal acts, either on one side of the border or the other. Biden's June 4th executive order, issued 2 days after Sheinbaum's election, was his latest attempt to bring order to what critics call an overrun and chaotic US-Mexico border. Oh, is it? I mean, it hasn't been for years now, and certainly not entirely worse under Biden? What critics call, it seeks to slow the entry of families from Central America, Venezuela, Haiti, Africa, and elsewhere. Those migrants are taxing an already overwhelmed asylum system. Thousands are currently huddled on the Mexican side of the border, waiting to cross the Rio Grande and apply for asylum. Well, like I say, if you try to cross the border illegally, your bid for asylum should be negated outright. That should be it. If that were the law, it wouldn't stop all illegal migration, but would cut off a lot of the incentive for people to do so. The order bars migrants from seeking asylum in the United States whenever unauthorized crossings reach a 7-day average of 2,500 per day. All right, so if you're one of the lucky few of the first 2,500 per day to get across the border illegally, you can still apply for asylum. No. That is not the answer. That is not the way to do it. Oh, my God. Thank you again, JB. With what I was saying, it's just crazy because people will defend it. These things fund cartels plus spike stuff, allegedly. If I remember, it was mentioned by a guy on Tim Pool, who is an idiot, LOL. It's all in service to criminal organizations, one way or the other. Whether it's a employer on the U.S. state side or someone smuggling something across the border in service to a cartel or some other legal enterprise. It doesn't help anybody except the people that you don't want to be helped by it. We need far stricter laws, not this. There's a 2,500 quota per day where you can break the law and still get the benefits of asylum. You should not be able to apply for asylum if you cross the border illegally. Short of a situation that is caught on camera where you're being chased to the border by criminal elements and you're literally seeking asylum from immediate peril. And that's like action movie nonsense in the first place. But barring something like that, if you cross the border illegally, asylum attempts should be denied. And you're sent back to your country of origin, and you're locked out for 5 or 10 years from attempting again legally. Something like that. You need to take away the incentives for desperate people and criminal organizations to attempt to make the crossing. You need to cut those incentives off. Not just with laws at the border, but also with sanctuary cities and everything else. Either you follow the laws of this country to enter it, or you are not permitted to stay. Full stop, zippity quick. And if somebody says, oh, that's xenophobic and that's the isolationist, like, hey, you know what? I'll put being called a xenophobe or an isolationist or whatever up against a child's body floating in the Rio Grande because their idiot parents decided to drag a kid screaming and kicking into their death on the gamble of getting a free house somewhere in New York. Just stop it. Stop it. Anyway, let's continue. I'll back up a little bit. The order bars migrants from seeking asylum in the United States whenever unauthorized crossings reach a 7-day average of 2,500 per day. And of course, you can only know what the average is after 7 days. So 7 days go by, and then after that, I guess you lock it down. The border would reopen. Okay, only after the average dropped to a 1,500 a day and stayed there for 2 weeks. That is the most convoluted VCR instructions nonsense. Draw a line and stick to it. This is saying you're doing something without really doing anything. Twisted Skipster, thank you so much. Sorry I am late. Hello, Scribbles in chat. No need to apologize. It's fine. It's fine. Hope you're having a good weekend, Skipster, and welcome to the show. Yeah, this entire order is nonsense. It's nonsense. The flavor of it sounds like he's doing something extreme, but he's not. He's not. You have to wait 7 days and then average out what you've had per day, and only then can you decide, okay, well, now we're going to move the needle a little bit this direction. It's BS. Absolute BS. Migrants who petition for asylum normally are released into the U.S. to pursue their claims in immigration court, a process that can last years. Yeah, that's also a big problem. The new system, such as it is designed to close that pathway, except it doesn't, during times of heavy border traffic. No, it should close that pathway, period. Close that pathway, not just during this time or that. Close it. Close it off. You know, and I understand that an executive order might not hold up in the Supreme Court. I get that, and it should. I don't like presidential executive orders. Congress needs to snip off this pathway. Full stop. They need to actually get their act together and say, if you break the law to get into this country, your right to claim asylum goes away. Goes away. Anyway, I could repeat myself, but I'd just be repeating myself. The new system is designed to close that pathway during times of heavy border traffic, with exceptions for unaccompanied children, victims of human trafficking, and those who apply for asylum from south of the border using a U.S. Customs and Border Protection app. Again, there are exceptions. If you are a child who is dragged here against your will because you're a minor and you can't make those decisions, or if you've actually been smuggled in by criminal elements or whatever, yes, exceptions can be made depending on the circumstances. But generally speaking, save for extreme circumstances, or you're talking about an underage minor or something, you got to draw the line, guys. You have and make it solid. Not have these weird metering average per week percentage, except no, it doesn't do anything. That just make you know what that does? You know what that does? That makes it an exclusive kind of thing, right? Why did people want to get into Studio 54, right? Because of the appearance and the metering of exclusivity, because it was where all the special people went. And if you got in, if you were a normal peasant mortal, you didn't have a chance in hell in getting there, but there was a small chance. There was a tiny chance you could impress the bouncer. There's a tiny chance that someone might pay attention to you. And so it made it all the more attractive to try to get in. So if you're going to meter the number of people that might be considered for asylum if they cross the border illegally up until a point or something, that makes it a race. That makes it even more of a competition to get past the line before the week's averages are figured out. I mean, ultimately, maybe you'll make the number of people coming across the border drop, but the number of people who are going to risk their lives in getting there is going to shoot through the roof. Thank you, Fostonia, for the happy, dancy, kabuki dogcat fox. Oh, dogcat fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Ooh, there's a froggy dogcat fox. Thank you so much, Fostonia. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you're enjoying the show. Let's see. Biden's order jolted Mexico's incumbent president Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador and Sheinbaum, his handpicked successor, who will take office October 1st. It jolted them? Why did it jolt them? Quote, on the migration front, we had been working well, an irritated Lopez Obrador said in one of his regular meetings with the media. He said Mexico and the U.S. need, quote, a relationship of respect for our own sovereignties. We need to look for a policy of good neighbors, and we need to protect our economic trade integration, unquote. Okay, so what are you guys doing at your own side of the border to prevent illegal crossings? I mean, we're getting 118,000 plus per month coming across anyway. You know, if you want to have that back and forth, you know, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. What are you guys doing on your side of the border to prevent this stuff from happening? The American Civil Liberties Union and several migrant rights organizations, along with El Paso County, have filed suit to overturn Biden's order. Well, Again, I'm no fan of executive orders. Congress needs to act, not the president by presidential fiat. On Tuesday, in a move widely seen as an effort to take the edge off the asylum order, so you're just going to, what, shoot yourself in the toe after you've done something that was supposed to be a dramatic change and, okay, political fodder. Biden announced an executive order, an executive action to protect undocumented spouses and children of U.S. citizens, allowing them to apply for lawful permanent residency without leaving the country. So, amnesty. Amnesty. I'm not the children of U.S. citizens. I'm not as chuffed about, let's say, but undocumented spouses. Okay, eligible are non-citizens who have lived in the U.S. for at least 10 years illegally and are married to Americans. The action will provide legal status and protection for about 500,000 spouses and 50,000 non-citizen children. Many of those who qualify are Mexican citizens. You don't say. The worldwide flows of migration are keenly felt in Mexico. Migrants are now a visible presence in Mexico City, where they sweep streets, panhandle, collect election materials from polling stations, and row trajineras. I don't know what those are. The brightly colored, flat-bottom barges that ply the canals of Xochimilco. I don't pronounce Spanish words correctly, in the southern part of the capital. The migrants are straining some public services, you don't say. On Wednesday, Mexico's National Guard and immigration agents evicted migrants from a plaza in downtown Mexico City. Dozens of people from Haiti, Venezuela, and other countries had been camping there for months. Authorities said the migrants were taken to refugee centers in nearby states. Mexican attitudes towards migrants vary depending on their country of origin, according to a poll sponsored by the Puente News Collaborative, an El Paso-based nonprofit news organization. The poll found that 57% of Mexicans have a good or very good approval rating to Americans living in the country, followed by a 54% approval rating for Chinese. The approval rating declined to 39% for Guatemalans and about the same percentage for Venezuelans. The poll suggests that Mexicans overwhelmingly favor issuing temporary work permits to migrants rather than detaining them or building walls to stop them. Well, then you are incentivizing people to break the law. Puente's poll also showed that more than a third of Mexico's 128 million people would like to move to the U.S., though far fewer said they would do so without legal documents. Well, that's good at least. Yes, follow the rules and everything's fine. Sheinbaum hasn't commented on Biden's immigration moves. Well, until she has to, it's probably wise. Analysts believe she will support whatever position López Obrador takes on the issue. Of course, because Sheinbaum is basically just Obrador Part 2. But that's a whole other conversation. With Claudia Sheinbaum, it's likely that migration policy won't change drastically, said Andrew Seeley, president of the Migration Policy Institute in Washington, D.C. Quote, but she might focus more on intentionally integrating migrants and refugees in Mexico, as she did as mayor of Mexico City, Seeley said, and on positioning Mexico as a leader on migration issues in the hemisphere, unquote. Yeah, so if you can't beat them, integrate them into your society, even if they're overwhelming social services and risking criminal activities and shepherding even more misery and chaos for people trying to get to your country and on. And on and on. Yeah, okay. Just throw up your hands. That whole border thing, that whole sovereignty thing. Were you talking about sovereignty earlier, López Obrador? We'll just kind of give it up to anybody who kicks down the door. It's fine. Whatever Mexico does, the priority for Texans living along the border is to reimpose order, said Cleveland, the Terrell County sheriff. Quote, we have to get back to securing our border, he said. Quote, and we don't need to rely on Mexico to secure a border, unquote. No, you don't need to, but it sure does help to have a partner that has similar desires as you. But are you going to be allowed to secure the border or really clamp down on the incentives for people to make these moves? I don't know. Golly gee, Congress, would you act on behalf of national security, please? I'll take Biden's executive order over nothing. That's not much of an endorsement, but I'll take it over nothing. But could we actually get some immigration reform? Could we please? Pretty please with sugar on top? Probably not. go to the chat for a second here before I move on to the main course of today's stream. Shadowclaw in Trump's voice. I will make the greatest wall. It'll be so big, so wonderful, and we'll electrify it. Yeah, it'll be a zappy time. Sure. I mean, nothing that's going to break the Geneva Convention or anything, but yeah, no, really, the first thing you have to do is cut off the incentives for people coming here to risk their lives, to risk breaking the law. I don't know. I think the whole concept of sanctuary cities and sanctuary states should be made illegal. It really should. If you're promoting a policy that encourages people to break federal law, if you're inciting such things, what happened to incitement? Remember when incitement was like the big buzzword of the day a couple of years ago? Incitement. This was the worst thing ever. And under the law, under the right circumstances, it can be a pretty bad thing. Let's talk about incitement. How about inciting people to drown themselves and their children in the Rio Grande on the promise that if you just get across that line, we'll protect you from the federal government? How about that kind of incitement? Does that get any kind of press? Does that get any kind of blowback? Any kind of consequences? Doesn't seem to. JB, I've always wondered why Mexico is allowed to get away with this. I think it's because they spin it so hard they want people to feel bad for them. It's because they don't know what to do about it. They neither have the will or the infrastructure to stop it. So they kind of have to throw up their hands. But also when you have weak leadership, Lopez Obrador basically let cartels take over portions of his country. He just kind of like, well, I can't do anything about it. The situation in Mexico now, and especially with Obrador's apprentice taking over the presidency, it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. The forces controlling Mexico and what the Mexican authorities do or don't do, yeah, they're not good people. It's not an honest, good faith situation you're working with. And so I have to have some sympathy for the true hardworking American diplomats and officials who are trying to get Mexico to pull their weight in this problem, because they're running up against a situation that is untenable. So on that score, hey, I don't know what you do, but here's the thing. If Mexico either can't or won't do their part to try to stop this stuff, if they're just going to keep incentivizing people to come to their country and try to alleviate illegal activity by just basically legalizing it with work permits, then it is then incumbent upon American authorities to do even more to secure our border. You want to talk about sovereignty? Come on. So, yeah, if this is Biden's best bet or best shot at it, this is nonsense. If he really, like I say, I'd be more impressed. I wouldn't be a fan of the mechanism making it happen. I'd be more impressed with Biden if he did just draw a red line and say, if you cross the border illegally, you don't get to claim asylum from here on out. That's it. I'd be at least impressed with that. What he's done is not that. That's what needs to be done. And unfortunately, the only people that can really do that for sure, without it being challenged by the Supreme Court or made unconstitutional or otherwise, is Congress. And Congress doesn't want to act because it's too politically poisonous one way or the other. Everybody's waiting for the election. So as far as the border is concerned, I tell you what, if I was a voting man at this point for the presidency, I'd vote for Trump if that was my only concern. But of course, Trump will get so much pushback on it that probably nothing will happen there either. The Democrats will suddenly, I promise you, this is my psychic turn here, okay? If Trump becomes the president again and tries to make moves to secure the border more strictly than anything we've seen before because he's thus empowered and because he can't be reelected again, has nothing to lose in the attempt, the Democrats will push back and call Trump a racist and a xenophobe and an extremist and everything else. And little will get done, the needle won't get moved much, and everything will be challenged in court and on and on and on. So even if you vote for Trump, within the boundaries of what he can do, he'll probably do something, but most of what he could do if he had, some rational thinkers on his side, he won't be able to. The Democrats will nuke it one way or the other. Betcha dollars to donuts. Let's see. Anything else here? Blue-eyed scream, cartels are the Mexican version of over-aggressive lobbyists. I mean, that's one way to look at it. That is one way to look at it. By the way, before I continue, I don't think I mentioned because I forgot to. At the top of the chat box, it's been on the bar there at the bottom for a while now, but at the top of the chat box is a link to a fundraiser to help my friend Satsu go to a food festival and ply his wares and advertise his business. And what is Satsu's business, by the way? Well, let me tell you. This is the button I want to hit. I almost hit the button for the old ad. I really should delete that. This is the one I want to. This is my friend Satsu, aka Chef Tyrone, founder, owner, and CEO of Oishi Fried Chicken LLC, featuring a new line of signature spice mixes. Chef Tyrone's homemade blends are the perfect gateway to delicious fried chicken or any other protein you might prefer. These recipes were painstakingly tested in Tyrone's home kitchen to bring you all the fantastic flavors you and your family can enjoy. The current flavor lineup includes original, spicy, lemon garlic herb, barbecue rub, and taco seasoning. You can buy individual packs of your favorite flavors or save some money with a variety bundle, all through the online store. And Oishi Fried Chicken ships nationwide. Go to www.oishifc.com and order today. Yeah, so that's my ad for Satsu, aka Chef Tyrone. Again, this stream is not sponsored. I just do that because Satsu's my friend and I want to see him succeed as best as he can. So again, link to the fundraiser for him to send him off to a festival's at the top of the chat box. And you can also, right now, order some of his spice mixes if you're curious and help out his business. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the pièce de résistance, maybe, of the show. I found a new diversity YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, guys. Oh my gosh. And the titles of some of these things, boy, it just roped me in. So I've got two videos here. I've smushed them together. And it's called the Diversity Movement. No, that is not a medical condition affecting you in the bathroom. It is called the Diversity Movement. And here are the titles of the two short videos we'll be looking at from the diversity movement. The first one is Inclusive Marketing Case Study, Bud Light's Dylan Mulvaney Campaign. Ooh. But here's the one that really caught my attention, and it'll be the second one in the series here. Can you accomplish DEI goals without calling it DEI? Ooh, we're going to have a discussion about covert action. Maybe some Trojan horsing. I suppose we'll find out. A couple things here before. Matthew James, are they gluten-free? I believe they are. I think that is said so on the website. Check that out beforehand, obviously. I believe so. I think they are just spices. Just spice mixes. But do check out the website. I'm pretty sure Satsu has detailed that on the website. If not, you can always tweet him at fam2cents with the number 2 and cents being like the money. Let's see. Who else has anything else here real quick? What was this? Simon Wilkins. Maybe Biden wants as many little Mexican and other Latin American girls in the country because their hair smells spicy. Oh, jeez. Let's see. On Oishi, can you bake instead of fry? Yes, you certainly can. There's spice mixes. You can do with them as you will. Mix it in with whatever and have at it. But check out oishifc.com and there'll be more information there on Satsu's products. And of course, you can always zap them or direct message on Twitter otherwise. Or if you can't, I can, and I'll find out. So, all right. So here we go. We got two videos from the Diversity Movement YouTube channel, and this, as far as I can tell, these are two clips from a workshop, meeting conference thing with like real business leaders talking to our main speaker. Now, I don't know if it's scripted or canned in some way. The couple of few seconds I saw of the original video made me think it's fairly authentic, but you never know. So let's take a look and learn something. First and foremost, I guess a sort of post-mortem on the Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney campaign.
Hi, I'm Robin Gatens with Weave Healthcare. Had a question since you brought up Bud Light, because I would love to hear a case study just on this.
I would too. I would love to hear an analysis by those in the DEI camp on the results of the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light campaign.
So my understanding was that the marketing director who was behind that campaign.
Yes, who was a dyed-in-the-wool DEI zealot. And in an interview prior to the campaign launching, basically said the primary customers for Bud Light were people she wanted to move away from. It's just that's a really great thing. This product that we have, and we have a demographic that buys it in the most of the time. Hey, let's tell that demographic we don't care about them anymore. They're no longer important to us. Great marketing strategy, huh?
Her job was diversity, right? So if I think like her, and I'm looking at how do I expand Bud Light?
Expand Bud Light, not beyond its borders, but to vilify the entire nation that supports it and move over to a very, 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 very tiny demographic in this country and say that you matter more than your core consumer. Yeah.
To an audience that's not currently drinking Bud Light. And I look at that slide that you put up about who's got the spending dollars.
Yes.
The LGBTQ community is a great audience.
But
she leveraged an influencer who was, riding high.
No. Okay. The LGBTQ community is a great audience. Now, the question is the LGBTQ demographic going to buy your product? Are they currently buying your product? Even if all of them started buying your product, would that really shift the needle all that much? What kind of percentages are we talking about here? You got to be pragmatic when you're talking about marketing and everything. Is it worth the time to market to a demographic that doesn't want to buy your product or classically doesn't care to buy your product? And especially since you're talking about kind of a ubiquitous item, alcohol. Anybody can drink alcohol. Bud Light can be drunk by anybody. So why do you want to vilify your main core consumer? Oh, they're a great audience. Well, yeah, but are they a great consumer of your product? And is it worth it to alienate everybody else and glorify one demographic in that way? And again, it's not about being inclusive. It's not about diversity. It's about being exclusive, right? You're rejecting people. You weren't trying to bring people in. You're trying to tell other people they don't matter anymore.
Had to have been a very expensive partnership and a big coup to get Dylan to partner with her.
Sure. Dylan Mulvaney is just a spokesperson. That's it. He is just a spokesperson. I don't blame Dylan Mulvaney. If I cared enough about Bud Light, and I don't, I've never drank that stuff. I don't care about beer. But anyway, just as from an observatory position, Dylan Mulvaney was paid to do a thing. It's not Dylan Mulvaney's fault that Bud Light made a ridiculous marketing decision. So he made out fine. He got a big paycheck for it, and good for him, I guess. But yeah, the marketing executive behind it is who you want to look at. Thank you, Kiever Denmother, for the how's it going, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow.
Ooh, there's a ranting monkey, Dogcat Fox. The rarest of Dogcat Foxes. I wish I should make like Dogcat Foxes like Pepe's, like the rarest of Dogcat Foxes, the rarest of Pepe's. I need some more Dogcat Foxes from people. I need to get my true crime friends to give me some, especially those with like the really great voices. I need to get Dave's Lemonade to do like a wowie wow hey or something. I should talk to him about that. Anyway, so Dylan Mulvaney, he got a big payday. Good for him, Anne.
Yep.
And his content or her content was
you just committed a mortal sin. You used the wrong pronoun.
Was great.
No, it wasn't. Have you ever watched Dylan Mulvaney's content? It is the most weird, awkward, like descent into someone's delusional thinking about life and everything else. It's not great. It was never great. It was celebrated by zealots. It's not great content.
It was very cute.
Was it? Okay. I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I suppose.
It was timely.
Was it? Okay.
Tied into the March Madness. I mean, it was great.
Oh, the commercial itself? Oh, you're talking about the commercials themselves. Again, to each their own.
So my question is, where did they fail? Was it that the diversity marketing team didn't consult other marketing teams to see how the core audience for Bud Light would respond?
I think he's about to say yes. Let's see. Hold on real quick in the chat. Kyoso Scribe, how do you send in recordings for the Wowie Wow Wow? Well, what you can do is you can record yourself doing your version of a Wowie Wow Wow, and you can post it to the Discord server. Are you a member of the Discord server? And I'm not just talking about you, Kyoso, but in general. If you're not a member of the Discord server, well, thankfully, I've already pre-prepared a link to the Discord server. I'll put it up again at the end of the show. But if you want to join the Discord server, just click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to give the secret word. And the secret word today is Kiro Soldier. Sure. Since you ushered me into doing it, I blame you. Just say hello, Kiro Soldier. And I'll know that you watched the stream. At least at this point. I'll give a different secret word at the end of the show, so you have another chance for some reason. But yeah, just go on there, and if you can record that, and you can upload... you can either DM me the audio file. That's one option. Or you can email it to me at scribelight3, all one word, at gmail.com. And just keep it. My best recommendation is to record a couple of different versions of your Wowie Wow Wow, and I will pick one out of them, or whichever one you like the best. And yeah, so either post it on a Discord as its own little file, or email it to me, scribelight3, the number 3, at gmail.com. So there you go. Now, of course, the more Dogcat Foxes I get, it's going to be difficult to always pick out certain ones, because it's just like, oh, which one shall I pick? So they will become rare eventually. The rarest of Dogcat Foxes. Anyway, so yes, what was the mistake that Bud Light made? Did they not consult with other marketing teams about how to make this message palatable to their core consumer?
Was it the backpedaling that Bud Light did after the crisis broke?
No. I mean, the backpedaling was embarrassing as all heck and showed that they didn't actually mean what they said when they put this out in the first place, and that they weren't thinking about it, and that you put a bunch of zealots at the head of things. I mean, that the backpedaling was a confession that they really screwed up. But the original decision, it was made on ideological grounds by an ideologue that they put into a position of making decisions for marketing. That's what it was. Now, will our speaker confirm that? Where
then they didn't look like they were all that authentic in terms of their goals in reaching a diverse audience. You know, they ended up...
Okay, lady, you need to let him answer the question. Okay, are you asking a question, or are you making a speech? Because right now he's trying to just remember these different points because you keep talking.
Firing the team that worked on that, and their sales have not recovered.
No, they haven't. Okay, so let's see if the guy's going to be honest about what happened here.
So in all the things that you were sharing with us today, and maybe they failed on all those parts, but I would love to get your thoughts on what could have or should have been done differently.
So thank you so much for the question. I'll restate it, and then the 2 points. So one, the reason that I'm smiling is like, it is a complex question.
No, it really isn't a complex question. You put someone in charge of advertising and marketing for the product who operated on an ideology of identity politics. She hated men. She hated the frat bro culture. And she wanted to transmogrify Bud Light into a drink for her preferred demographics and reject and vilify the core consumer base as an act of change. She wanted to be a change maker. She ended up in a position of power, and she decided to go all out and make change. Because making change, and not the kind that actually increases profits, is more important than the bottom line. That's what happened. It's very simple. But let's see what he says.
But what I will tell you is that corporations are actually authentic.
What? Wait, whoa, wait. What? Corporations are actually authentic? What? Just as a general rule? Really? Oh, so Enron was just genuinely authentic, guys. What? What? Hold on.
Question. But what I will tell you is that corporations are actually authentic.
Actually authentic. Okay, continue.
They're money-driven organizations.
Yes, corporations are money-driven organizations. Uh-huh.
And they're authentically aligned to their stock price and shareholder value first.
Are they? Really? I don't know. I don't know when this was filmed, but just as a, very potent example, have you taken a look at Disney over the last 5 or 10 years? Do they care about stockholder value and share price when they put ideology and nonsense above profits? When they think that they're going to make more profits by expanding their ideology to an inclusive model, and then they don't? I don't know if our speaker understands that most of corporate America has been taken over by people that do not care about profits over making change. This is the separation. When you're playing with someone else's money and your entire agenda is to alter the landscape of society in an image that you prefer, share value and stockholder shares, they don't matter. The message matters. The change matters. I'm a change maker, not a value maker. That's the difference. That's okay, but yeah, all right. So yeah, all corporations, all they care about. So what happened with Bud Light? If that was the main concern, why did Bud Light put an ideologue in charge of its marketing?
And that's any of the companies that we know and love, any of the companies that we think are amazing and at different levels in the scale. When you're a public organization, you have a fiduciary responsibility for best effort and intention to grow that shareholder value. Stop sentence.
Then why did Bud Light put a DEI, identity politics zealot in charge of marketing the product?
And so the backpedaling, they simply reverted to their number one existence priority, and they're backpedaling. And I'm not defending Bud Light. I'm just telling you the C-suite mentality.
No, you are. Okay. By not critiquing their decision-making, you are defending Bud Light. You're saying that everything that they did was in an aim to increase shareholder value, which is demonstrably not true. Demonstrably not true. It was, if they had come out, if anybody had advertised that lady's plan for Bud Light ahead of time, because the interview with her saying that she basically wanted to move away from the bro frat boy culture or whatever didn't really come to the surface until after the scandal. If anybody with any thinking brain cells had come out and said, hey, we're thinking about taking this product that has been classically part of college culture and bro culture and frat culture and everything else, and our primary consumer base is males between 18 and 25. And we're going to shift over to making an entire campaign trashing that demographic and just saying, no, the preferred demographic now is LGBTQ plus trans people. I think anybody, even those who aren't market savvy, would look at you with a bit of concern for your mental well-being. So you're dodging, again, you're dodging the question and you're not addressing the real problem.
Bud Light, I'm just telling you the C-suite mentality. If they didn't backpedal and fire that group, they'd had to fire 1,000 other people if that stock price didn't go down.
Okay, I think if that stock price didn't go up, I think he meant. But either way, okay, so address the actual decision in the first place, not the aftermath.
there would have been a more significant impact across the organization.
Well, no, yes, they heads had to roll at that point. They had screwed up so badly. If they didn't say and admit they screwed up badly, then the damage would continue to increase. So yes, that just needed to happen. Now talk about the initial decision to do that marketing campaign in the first place.
So that's the part on the corporation. Again, not defending, but the mindset.
Well, what else could you do but do that? And okay, yeah.
What did this person do wrong? And
okay, all right.
the case study on it.
Yes.
So if you think about LGBTQIA++ in our society,
You left out Two-Spirit. I mean, maybe that's in the plus somewhere, but you left out Two-Spirit. Come on, get with the program. Even I know this stuff.
what is the most lightning rod issue of that letters?
What's the most lightning rod issue of that letters? Well, depending on what you're talking about, because there's a lot included in LGBTQIA++, etc. But I'd say you got two things: either medical procedures on children of one form or another, or pronouns. I suppose those are the lowest hanging fruit right now.
It's the conversation about the trans community.
I mean, as an umbrella term, maybe. And,
Without question.
okay, I'll stipulate, sure. In an umbrella, broad level, 30,000 foot high sense, sure. The conversation about the quote unquote trans community. And
so now, if you are going to do something that has the potential for the highest level of positive, it also means it's going to come with the highest potential for negative.
what? No, wait. Okay, as a preamble, I am an English major. I am not a marketing major. I don't have a business degree. So I'm pretty much just talking off my layman's rear end here. But if I know for a fact, before I even start an ad campaign, that my primary consumer base is X, and I decide I'm going to run a campaign targeted at Y, then I think the outcome for negatives is already assumed to be a thing that's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's going to be a downturn. If I'm going to take my marketing dollars and put them towards a demographic that genuinely or generally does not pay attention to my product, or I'm going to, by elevating one demographic because of the culture war and effectively vilifying or dismissing an entire other demographic that is classically my customer base, I think the negatives are pretty much what's the phrase I'm looking for? Self-evident. So yes, if you go for the high risk but also high reward kind of thing, but what is the high reward? What was the reward that they thought they were going to get out of this that was going to exceed their current sales? That's the calculus you have to explain. Because if it was a miscalculation, right? If everything told them this has a chance to succeed in a way that is a benefit over the negatives, and so we're going to roll the dice. If it was just that, they took a chance and it didn't go the way they wanted to, and it was an honest mistake, right? There was information telling them that this could be a great boon to the company. Then all right, detail that to me. Detail that to me that they rolled the dice and they just happened to fail. Came up snake eyes. I don't think you can do that, though.
And that means you got to screen test that thing pretty significantly.
Okay.
Before you're making that selection with that particular influencer in that campaign.
Okay, so does our speaker have some inside baseball knowledge that they played this out in focus groups ahead of time and they got such an amazing reaction that justified their moving forward with it?
Because your core audience pays for all that you're trying to do to expand the demographic?
Yes, the primary consumers of your product are paying for you to then further the marketing.
So you have to understand that core and how to move that core in smaller bite-sized steps.
Move that core into small. They're already buying your product. Why do you have to move the core? That's the core. It's already there. It is rooted. You want to expand the core. Move the core to what?
They were simply too aggressive in that moment.
What were their intentions? Moving the core. Moving the core to what? To adjust social thinking? That sure sounds like this advertising campaign was not about making profits, but was meant to make change. Right? So without really saying it, if I'm understanding him correctly, he's saying that they jumped too far. They flew too close to the sun in trying to normalize something associated with a product and a demographic that's not usually associated with it, and effectively tell anybody the core that they don't matter anymore. Not to increase profits, but to change people's minds about social issues.
And here's why. Because that good-meaning marketer.
Good-meaning marketer? I don't want a marketer that has good meaning. I want a marketer that's going to sell the product.
Is now vilified, unemployed, and their team is gone.
Because she's a failure. She failed to sell the product. She put the message over shareholder value, just like you said.
If you want to stand on that hill, then you stand on that hill. Just like I had to make that decision whether I was going to confront Indian Giver or not. You got to be willing to take the goodness if you get an award for it, or the negative if it doesn't work.
But the goal was not to increase sales. The goal was to push a message. That's the differential you're not acknowledging here. Okay, so what's her name? The marketer for Bud Light. She was a well-meaning social justice warrior who just happened to bite off more than she could chew at that time. She needed to start small. She needed to have Dylan Mulvaney show up amongst a whole bunch of football players or something. And like, see, I'm just one of the boys. I mean, girls, guys, things. And then you know, frog in the pan of water, right? Slowly turn up the heat. Oh, it was too much too soon. What was the goal? Again, the goal was not to sell beer. The goal was to push an agenda. That's where it failed. On its face. If Bud Light had pulled that with any other socio-political agenda, it didn't have to be Dylan Mulvaney and trans rights or something. It could have been anything where you're using the platform of Bud Light to push an ideological message. It might not have affected it as dramatically as something like this, but then there you go.
It's too big a swing.
Uh-huh.
Because of the core demographic of that audience. Whereas you could use a lot of different visuals, and you can incorporate the community with others so that it blends together better and stronger.
Okay. Now, I understand that our speaker is a DEI advocate, right? So his main focus is the message at the end of the day, but he's trying to combine this with the pragmatism of demographics and sales and marketing, right? So the goal is to change the message. The goal is to be a change maker. How does that run up against marketing and demographics and advertising? And they're finding out, okay, so really what you want to do is slowly, insidiously move your ideological messages into the advertising over time, right? Like I said, I just made that up a second ago. Have Dylan Mulvaney in a football helmet on the line of scrimmage with the rest of the football players and not really make any messaging or statement about Dylan Mulvaney other than just having someone in contrast to the football players playing the same game, right? Something like that, something fun, something like a joke. And then slowly you'll move the message. But except that, you know, you talked about shareholder value and corporations are authentic. Uh-huh.
If they had asked me, that's what I would recommend. Not that they don't keep moving and progressing, but oftentimes because we're so passionate about the work, we move too fast, too soon.
The work.
And then it gets a pullback that's equally as strong.
So you have to be more subversive. You have to be sneakier. Yeah, but if you take too long, you're not really doing anything, are you? You're not moving the needle. You're not making the dramatic move that'll get you the most attention, right? You can't be a savior by degrees. You can't waste time. You have to get things done. We're change makers.
And then we end up in the same place or worse.
Uh-huh.
And so it's a great question. And we can talk about it more, but
Yeah, you could talk about it more, but you're not going to. I think this is almost over. Each of these things is like 5 minutes long.
some opinions. And these are the opinions of Donald and Jonathan Thompson Jr. And not of any other corporation that I may represent or get paid for.
Disclaimer, by the way, I'm not attached to any of my clients, so that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Strategic storytelling, the power of inclusive marketing in the age of AI. Yeah, remember everybody, as we learned from the Bridge Initiative, it's no longer about diversity. It's about moving the needle, moving the story, moving the conversation to inclusion. Inclusion is now the key word. Inclusion encompasses all of the things that DEI and stuff, but it doesn't actually say the word diversity as much anymore. So that's our first video from the diversity movement. All right. So on the subject of Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light, his recommendation is they should have gone slower. They shouldn't have been so dramatic in their advertising changes. They should have integrated it over time. Again, turn the heat up on the frog in the pan of water slowly. But no, we can't do that. The time is now. We have to act now. You can't cater to the enemy, the core audience. You have to cater to the real people, the victims, the oppressed now. Now is the time. Now. Can't wait. Got to do it now. And what lessons have been learned? Apparently nothing. So our speaker really thinks that if they just slowly vilified the core audience and slowly elevated demographics on the basis of their appearance or their sexual orientation or everything else, that would have made Bud Light not take as much of a hit. Okay, you got to slow it down, make it more covert, more subversive, not as obvious. Okay. Well, let's move on to the second video and the one that I'm most interested in. Can you accomplish DEI goals without calling it DEI? Again, in the theme of keep it secret, keep it safe, tell no one, and don't make it obvious.
Hi, my name is Chris with the North Carolina Nurses Association.
North Carolina Nurses Association. Okay.
Chris, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Following up on some of the backlash stuff. At NCNA, we are a year and a half into making one of our 5 strategic priorities relentless inclusion. So we're
relentless inclusion. Boy, coming soon, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. Relentless inclusion. Relentless inclusion. I mean, that's right up there with radical diversity. An old video I did, it was at a it was like a games lab at a college or something, where you had all these students coming in to learn how to make video games and program and so on. And they practiced something they called radical diversity, where at every meeting, every morning meeting or something, they go around the circle and have everybody introduce themselves with their pronouns and all their other adjectives. It sounded like a cult. It was probably my first real exposure to how cultish this stuff can become. I forget what the video was called. It was a long time ago. But relentless inclusion, everybody. That's a new one. Relentless inclusion. Okay, what constitutes relentless inclusion? I can't wait to hear about this.
Is relentless inclusion. So we've been all in on DEI for a year and a half.
Oh, and how has that increased your profits, or do you care about profits?
It's been going very well.
So DEI in nursing? Oh, great. You know, there's nothing better than having to wonder if the person taking care of my health is there because they're qualified or because they fit the aesthetic desires of a bunch of ideological zealots in charge of things. Boy, It's a great world to live in at that point.
One of our board members recently suggested that we try to accomplish our goals
Mhm.
without saying DEI anymore.
And right. Okay. So yeah, you again, change the stripes. It's still a leopard. I know leopards don't have stripes. You know what I'm talking about. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Obviously, if you call it that, it must be what it is, right? Uh-huh.
He said this as someone who was appointed to the board because of his expertise in DEI.
So even he sees the writing on the wall.
He's saying his suggestion, and we're not sure if we're going to do it or not.
Well, I mean, if I were a betting man, I'd say you should, just because of the legal implications first and foremost, if not the PR implications. But again, if you're not going to change your policies, you're just going to change the label. You're going to be caught out still. There's still going to be pushback. And especially since you've said this in public now. Because here's the thing. If the North Carolina Nurses Association suddenly stops using the phrase DEI, this guy's already told us the secret. They're still doing the same things that are suggestively violating federal law or certain ethical standards, and putting a question mark on the actual quality of care they're providing up against the aesthetic. But okay, thanks for giving away the magic trick.
Is that we try and accomplish our goals without potentially losing the ability to partner with government organizations that might have DEI restrictions based on current political climate.
Right. So how can we still do something that is demonstrably controversial and potentially damaging, not only to ourselves, but to our clients? Just not say that's what we're doing with the current label. Are you listening to this guy? Like, how can we still get away with it if I don't call it, if I don't call, if I say, I had I had an energetic, concussive interaction with my girlfriend. It's not really assault anymore, right? I've called it something else.
So
listen to this guy. He's so please tell me that there's a way we can do this without people looking at us too intimately, please.
Yes. As the director of communications, my first thought was, oh, crap. How am I supposed to communicate about DEI without saying DEI anymore?
Yeah, I know. There are no other words in the English language to get across the same concepts, generally or otherwise. Yeah.
And I'm just curious about your thoughts on where this is going and some of the blowback and what words get vilified by certain angles and that sort of.
I get it.
Yeah. Why do they get vilified? What is the underlying premise to those words? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion are all about discrimination. It's all about discrimination and throwing aside the concept of merit and personal character. That's why those words in that combination, in the context in which they are used in the modern day, are vilified. Because they exemplify the absolute opposite of what this country is supposed to stand for ultimately. Doesn't always achieve it, but what's supposed to stand for. Right? Individual merit, setting aside aesthetic qualities, making it illegal to discriminate on the basis of these elements that you guys as DEI proponents raise up as value factors in people rather than raising up the people themselves and what they can do. But you can't bring yourselves to admit that because that would make you the bad guys.
Thoughts. One, it's good advice.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay. So our DEI professional is saying hide?
And the advice allows what your first reaction is, why am I going to not say DEI? I don't care anymore. I don't want to conform. I don't want to lose this battle. I don't want to do XYZ, right? As a communicator, our number one motive is audience and acceptance of new information for behavioral change.
Well, this sounds kind of creepy. He's not wrong, I suppose, but you think about what this is meaning towards the ends of DEI.
That is our number one priority. The Republican Party, the right-leaning conservative movement, whatever you want to call it.
Racists, bigots, xenophobes. I think that's pretty well established at this point.
Has done a good job of confusing and linking the term DEI to a race conversation.
Wait. The Republican Party has linked DEI to a race conversation. Sorry, describe for me a non-diverse candidate for a job. What is a non-diverse candidate for a job? What does diversity describe at its core? The Republican Party did this. Oh, you mean it's not part and parcel to the goals and aims of DEI? Have you listened to other DEI advocates and consultants talking about what their goals are, what they're trying to help companies do? Okay, our speaker is either A, delusional, right, or is being an absolute liar here. The Republican Party did not connect DEI to a race conversation. DEI is a quote-unquote race conversation. Come on.
That most white people do not want to have.
Oh, I stopped too soon. Pardon me, that was my bad. Connected DEI to a race conversation that most white people do not want to have. Oh, that makes it even worse. Go on.
And it doesn't matter what people don't want to have a conversation where they go into a room and there's a chance that they're deemed a racist just because they don't understand, have a countering view, period. That's just what it is.
And you just contributed to that by marking out white people as being people that don't want to have that simply on the basis of their skin color. They're scared. They're scared. You already know what they think. You already know their temperament on this subject on the basis of their skin color. Are you listening to yourself?
And that fear-mongering has been powerfully used.
Well, obviously this guy has not seen the undercover video of the Disney executive.
Because of that, you could lose conversational momentum, fiscal momentum, by fighting in a theater that we're not winning.
Man, you know, I am not smart enough to effectively analyze all of this. You need to find somebody who's an expert in propaganda or something. In human form, Formy would probably be a better person to look at this kind of stuff and give a more cogent analysis, because he actually has gone to school for this kind of stuff. I should pass on this to him and see what he has to say.
Because it's a shouting match. It's a verbal food fight. If you move a little bit this direction and use the word inclusion and use phrases that inclusion means all, and in your specific case, I happen to serve on the board of ECU Health.
Oh, you do? Well, that's a great sign. I love it when like vital services in this country are being overseen or influenced by people who don't care about the vital services and just care about the window dressing of the people providing them.
On the board of trustees.
Uh-huh.
And we're talking about some of the same things. Healthcare outcomes.
Yeah, let's talk about healthcare outcomes. Let's talk about the ability and merit of the people providing those outcomes.
Building trust in low trust communities.
Low trust communities, uh-huh.
There are things where you can gain agreement and move forward. I don't think we have the time, effort, energy, or budget to fight a battle, a narrative that someone's going to hold the same opinion no matter what, because the conversation isn't actually about DEI for those folks.
Oh, it isn't? Oh, what is it really about?
It is about political capital and power.
Oh, it is. It's not about inherent and rampant illegal discrimination in hiring and promotion practices. Okay, well, if you say so.
So therefore, they can never agree with you. Even if your facts are better, they can never agree with you.
Your facts are better? Better than what? You just told us that you know what white people think. What facts do you have again?
Because their goals are different.
Their goals are different. Okay, what are their goals and what are your goals?
Your goal is healthcare outcomes.
Is it? Because he was talking about DEI. He wasn't talking about healthcare outcomes. He was talking about rebranding, but not changing policy. He was talking about putting a coat of paint over rotten wood, but now you brought it back to healthcare outcomes? That's not his priority. That was not even in his question.
Their goal is to redraw a political map.
No. He is trying to redraw the ideological map by putting a blanket over the truth. Healthcare outcomes wasn't even part of this conversation. You just injected it into there. What are you talking about?
And power.
What?
And because the goals are different, you can't get into a conversation with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, if your goals are different, if you want to institute policies and practices in your business that are rampantly illegal under federal and state laws and try to call it a good thing, I mean, really, DEI is all about rebranding bad stuff one step to the other, whether it's DEI or DNI or JEDI or Bridge or whatever. You want to talk about redrawing the map. How many different organizations keep trying to rebrand themselves with the same garbage underneath, with a different term or a different name, or just trying to move it over and talk about inclusion and make that the focus and not about this, but not change anything under the hood? Healthcare outcomes.
So you have to alter language that talks about health equity.
Yeah, integrate. Yeah, so healthcare outcomes. Let's talk about health equity. There's no such thing as health equity. There is no equality of outcome for health. Everybody's different. Two different people with the same ailment could be given the same treatment and have completely different outcomes as a result, because they're different people with different body chemistries, with different DNA, etc., and so forth. Health equity.
You have to alter language that talks about healthcare outcomes. You have to talk about inclusive language so that a nurse, and I experienced this with my dad, a nurse just getting out of nursing school and trying to be attentive to a 70-year-old grumpy black man that doesn't trust white people.
Oh, okay, so he's a racist. All right.
There's a coaching that's required and is scared because he's in the hospital.
Sure. Okay.
Right? And then Julie, who are you? Don't touch me. Right?
What?
Because there's all of these inbred fears and biases, and then he's on all kinds of drugs, right?
Right. And why does he not like white people? How do you convince him to trust the people giving him care? Oh, well, the DEI response would be, well, you need to have more black healthcare workers in there so that the racist black people will feel comfortable with the care they're being given, I guess.
So inclusive language.
How is inclusive language going to solve the 70-year-old racist black man's opinion of the people providing him care?
Changing terminology, asking permission, calling the person Mr. versus just their name. All of these things are training things that help
What?
the goal that you have as a communicator, which is
What?
better healthcare outcomes.
That wasn't his goal as a communicator. His goal was to still practice DEI without calling it DEI, which is easy to do. Just change nothing about your policies and call it the Cute Puppy Initiative. That's it. It's a very simple thing to do. It's just that if you do that, you'll be looking like you're capitulating to the right wing, and all of your left wing buddies who see DEI as a gold standard, just as a checkbox, will think that you've abandoned ship. And you have, Except you haven't, because all they care about, if you can believe it, is the aesthetics. If you change the label, but you do nothing different, and somebody vilifies you for changing the label, do you guys not see the vicious circle of this kind of thinking? Both abstractly and when it pertains to individual people, or sorry, groups.
And so my goal with you, if I were consulting you all, is to keep your mission in mind in every step of the way.
Well, that's what he's talking about, rebranding the process, but not changing anything. How do we reach our goals without calling it DEI? Well, the mechanisms don't change if you just change the label, dude. You're just scared of ticking off all the people at your country club soirees or something by looking like you abandoned ship and are betraying the sisterhood.
And our goal is for nurses to come out and make sure that we deliver the best quality of healthcare in the world through our nursing association. And to do that, we're going to work on these 4 things.
Wait, what is going on here?
What? You gotta be fucking kidding.
Right?
I mean, I thought the end of the last TEDx was kind of an out of left field balderdash gobbledygook mind intercourse. But this takes the cake. This takes absolute nonsense, pablum, redonkulous, just word salad to a level I don't think I've seen recently. A guy asks a simple question, and our speaker moves everything into utter la-la land. Like it's effectively incoherent.
And then I think you'll keep your momentum. It's a powerful question.
It's a powerful question. It's a cowardice question. It is a cowardice question. He is so scared of what people are going to say. If our questioner really truly believes in DEI, if he believes it is a good thing, it does good things, it leads to good outcomes, then why is he retreating? And he's not even retreating from the fundamentals, he's retreating from the label. If you're scared of the label, or you think the label is going to turn off others or cause controversy, then you change the label. If you still believe in the mission, it's not much of a sacrifice if you're not going to change anything under the hood. It's not a powerful question. It's a question of cowardice.
And with some of the healthcare organizations I work with, I happen to...
Healthcare is not the... Okay, that guy represents a healthcare association, but his question has nothing to do with healthcare. Nothing to do with healthcare. He's asking, how do you avoid the political calamity of using a phrase and a series of words that now signifies rampant discrimination and illegal practices that already has pushback from the Supreme Court of the United States fundamentally on the diversity argument for discrimination in official practices from the affirmative action decision? How do you get away from putting yourself in either PR or legal liability using a phrase that puts you square in the sights of lawsuits, but still achieve the goals of the thing the label represents? That's all he asked. He didn't ask anything about healthcare. He didn't have any concerns about healthcare outcomes. He's asking about saving face and avoiding controversy. He's asking about hiding from the inevitable backlash that is coming down on this stuff. And what does our speaker say? Nothing to that. Absolute gobbledygook.
Have some thoughts.
Okay. Strategic storytelling. Well, I tell you, this is a story that has no structure to it. Anyway, I thought the Dylan Mulvaney one was a little goofy, but that is something else. That is something else. You know, the Republicans have made this into DEI about a race conversation that white people don't want to have. Man. Also, good morning to Aaron Baker, or Aaron Baker? Aaron Baker. And Meh, good morning to you. Scanner Daffley, good morning to you. Shadow Sinatra, good morning to you. Anybody else I missed in the meantime as I scroll? Resolute Germ, good morning belatedly. But yeah, so there you go. There is a DEI consultant not answering a direct question asked him. I mean, it wasn't a bad question. All right. It was very straightforward. I like the fact that the questioner didn't like pad it with a whole bunch of other stuff or start going off into a whole bunch of anecdotal stuff. He just said, look, because of all the controversy with the term DEI, how do we still achieve our DEI goals without calling it DEI? Very, very simple question. And the simple answer is just don't call it DEI anymore. I mean, I guess my question to the questioner would be, what do you fear is the downside of rebranding? Like, what is your concern? What do you think is going to happen in a negative sense if you drop the DEI moniker to what you're doing? And then I try to address his immediate concern, because it's all about the aesthetic at this point. It's all about the brand label, right? But our speaker didn't go that way. He went off into absolute nowhere land with healthcare outcomes. And anyway, thank you, Fostonia. Holy cats. Appreciate it. On Bud Light, it's one thing to make employees behave a certain way, but a whole new level to proselytize the customer, right? It sure feels like zealots engaging in religious conversion. Well, that's what, I mean, I was thinking about it when I was first making comment on the Bud Light thing and what he was saying. I was thinking about it simply from a pure marketing standpoint, right? I actually forgot for a moment that I'm listening to somebody who is a DEI advocate. So obviously the goal is not profits. His goal is not profits. His goal is moving the conversation. And I should have remembered that. It's like, okay, as I'm listening to him trying to justify this, I'm not defending Bud Light. Like, why wouldn't you? I mean, they may have flown too close to the sun to achieve ultimate success, but you have to admire their attempt, right? Because they were moving in the right direction. They just moved too fast. But it's about converting people's minds. But of course, that's true about all advertising, right? That's true about all marketing and propaganda. It doesn't matter if it's Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney, or if it's about the new Coke or Beanie Babies or whatever. You're trying to move people's minds and attention towards a particular end. And that end is to buy our product or support our cause. So that's the core use of marketing, propaganda, and advertising, is to change people's minds, put a thought in their head that wasn't there before, try to change their opinion, try to move them towards your end. So that's fine and that's expected, right? And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. If Bud Light, and I'm not quite sure what their goal was. I mean, their goal, this is the problem. Their goal wasn't to try to sell more beer, right? Their goal wasn't to try to bring in a new demographic, a valuable demographic. Their goal was to change people's minds on a social level. It was social engineering propaganda. It wasn't about selling more beer. So if they'd had it in mind, they want to sell more beer and bring in more customers, then you go about it a different way. And his advice, at least on the surface, as far as I can tell, would not have been bad, right? You integrate in advertising your core consumer, and then you bring in, or you try to make normalized with another demographic that currently doesn't partake of your product, and bring them into the quote unquote conversation over time. So again, if you'd had a Bud Light commercial with a bunch of football players and you put Dylan Mulvaney right in the middle with a football outfit on and make a joke about Dylan Mulvaney's, physical disparity between the football players, and just have fun with it and not make a big deal, not make a social statement with nothing else integrating the message. I mean, it might not have worked perfectly, but it probably would have been better than what they did. But again, what's your goal? Is your goal to bring in new consumers or to reject another consumer and just make Bud Light a platform for a message, right? And this is what's happening with Disney and has been for years now. It's not about profit. It's not about increasing shareholder value. It's about doing something that you've been told, and you've told yourself, is going to change the world, save the world. save society, save America. To heck with bottom lines, to heck with profits. That's a lesser concern next to changing the conversation, improving the world. It's worth the sacrifice, right? Shareholder value, stock price, that is a sacrifice worth making to push the message further. So it's nuts. The whole thing was nuts. Bostonia. I really like the "What's that" commercial campaign from Bud. That cross cultures really well, and they were selling beer. Yes. You find something, you find a meme, an earworm, whatever it is, that transcends any kind of social conversation and just brands your product and makes your product a fun thing to think about. That's it. It's not that complicated. If you leave politics out of it and just make your product something that people want to partake in, or make a little cultural phenomenon out of a meme that is politically apathetic or neutral, then you've got yourself a good ad campaign. The second you start making your product a platform for changing people's minds on a sociological level and dipping into current social culture war stuff, you've lost the plot. You've lost the plot. In the case of Bud Light, they handed the keys to an ideologue, and they got exactly what you get from an ideologue. An idea, not a sale. But anyway, a couple more things here from you guys, and then I will wrap up as my voice is starting to give out. Scanner Daffley. By the way, Margaret Sanger was a huge fan of sterilizing inferior peoples, as were most progressives of the day. The more things change, eh? Well, is what it is. Some things never change. Oh, thank you, Frank Hubbard the Fourth. The frogs were great. Yeah, remember the Bud Light frogs? Remember when they just made a funny, goofy, quirky little commercial that got into people's heads? Remember when advertising was just about advertising the product and not trying to be a political statement? Let's see. Spittle Buggies. The Clydesdale commercials were good too. Yeah. Put an image of power, of like legacy, of something beyond oneself that sort of speaks to something primal in someone, animalistic, and all that kind of stuff, but not say you should think this way, or you have to accept this without any kind of pushback. And if you push back, you're a bad person. Right? But anyway, I'm going to stop here because my voice is giving out on me. 2 hours of straight talking is about my limit. Know when to say when, and I say when at about 2 hours. In fact, that's also kind of my limit on just sitting still. So even on streams where I'm a guest or something, I can only really go for 2 hours without moving around. Sometimes if there's like a lull in the conversation or something else is going on, I might mute myself just to stand up and stretch my legs for a second. But yeah, 2 hours is kind of my limit. So with that being said and oversaid, in the chat, again, is a link to the Discord server. If you're not a member of the Discord server, you can join the Discord server now by clicking on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the second secret word, not the first secret word. Well, you can still say the first secret word. If you say Kiro Soldier, I'll still accept you. But today's second secret word is authentic, because all corporations are authentic. Guys, just so you know, corporations are authentic. So says our speaker. Outside of that, you can find me every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on here for TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk for information and education or something. Also, I am scheduled to appear, as far as I understand it, this is a new one for me, Wednesday. I'm going to be a panelist guest, unless something goes sideways. We'll see. On Pop Culture Breakdown with Doomcock and Gary Ambrosia and several other of the, Hollywood reviewing elite amongst the YouTubers. And the movie that is going to be discussed at that time is Michael Keaton's Johnny Dangerously, a gem of the 80s, kind of a goofy gem, but we'll talk about that on Wednesday. So yes, Pop Culture Breakdown on Doomcock's channel, or Overlord DVD on YouTube. I should be a panelist that day. So look out for that. And beyond that, everybody, Thank you for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to Satsu's efforts to go to a festival to sell his food wares, please take a look at that if you haven't already. And thank you for donating. If you have, share that out on social media. If you haven't, thank you ahead of time for that. Also, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all three, depending on what you want to do. And I hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.